Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, my friends, and welcome back to Westpol, the home of explanation of the Holy Qur'an from a Shia perspective. Two different explanations are used. Today's explanation is by Al-Mizan, while the other are by Ayatollah Puya Yazdi. If you are new to this channel, kindly consider subscribing to support this work of bringing to you the explanation of the Holy Qur'an. Also consider sharing this with anyone who might benefit from it, be they Sunni, Shia or non-Muslim. Thank you, and let's start.
Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim.
In the name of Allah, the All-Merciful, the Ever-Merciful. This surah was revealed in Mecca and consists of 8 verses. It reminds the audience of the resurrection and divine retribution through charting the path of humankind. They are initially created in the ideal form, but then they differ with respect to whether or not they remain faithful to their pristine nature. Some depart from it and degenerate into the lowest of the low. Divine wisdom necessitates distinguishing between the consequence that each group will meet. This chapter is likely Meccan given the versa, and by this secure land. However, that is not explicit. Therefore, it could also be Medinan, having been revealed after the Prophet's migration, at a time when he was back to Mecca. First, second and third verse.
وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ وَطُورِ سِينِينَ وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينِ.
By the fig and by the olive, by Mount Sinai, by this after secure al-Amin land. There are several views regarding what the fig and the olive refer to. 1. They refer to the 2 conventional fruits. God swears by them because of their abundant benefits and unique properties. 2. They refer to the fig tree and the olive tree, respectively. 3. The fig refers to the mountain that Damascus was built upon, and the olive refers to the mountain that Jerusalem was built upon, Mount Zion. Comment. Perhaps the mountains are referred to by these 2 trees because they grow there, and perhaps they are being sworn by because they were the provenance of a large number of prophets. There is more to the list. By Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai is the mountain where God spoke with Prophet Moses, son of Amram Imbanan. It is called both Essen and Seina To. By this, 82d, secure al-Amban land. This refers to the holy Mecca, for its neighborhood has specifically been ordained as a sanctuary haram. God says, "Have they not seen that we have appointed a safe sanctuary?" God also narrates Prophet Abraham's supplications. My Lord, make this a secure land. My Lord, make this land a sanctuary. The demonstrative pronoun, this, ati-to, implies personification of the land, which is a way of exalting its status. There are 2 possible interpretations for the adjective secure. 1. It means securing. It is a land which is possessed of security. 2. It means secured. It is a town where people are safe by other people's attacks. Hence, using secure as an adjective for the land is figurative. 4th verse.
لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ.
We have certainly created the human being in ff, the fairest stature, s taqwa m. This is the complement of the oaths in the previous verses. The preposition f indicates that the best form contains all aspects of human existence. Taqwim means giving due to something, and due means a basis or structure by which something can stand firmly. The human being refers to the human species as a genus. It means that the human archetype is created with an excellent structure. The next verses, then we relegated them to the lowest of the low, clarify that having the fairest stature and structure in this verse refers to the human capacity. By the virtue of their creation, They can rise to the highest record, win eternal happiness with their Lord, and be saved from damnation. God has equipped them with beneficial knowledge and has enabled them to act righteously, as he says, by the soul and by what fashioned it, then inspired it with each discernment between its virtues and its vices. If humans have faith in what they know and persist in righteous deeds, God will uplift them, as he says, to him ascends the good word, and he elevates righteous conduct. Rather, it is your Godwareness that reaches him. Allah will raise those of you who believe and those who have been given knowledge in rank, for such shall be the highest ranks. There are other similar verses which show how humans can be elevated through faith and righteous actions, as a perpetual gift from God. God calls this gift a reward. They shall have an unfailing reward. 5th verse.
ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين.
Then we relegated them, Radantohu, from Rad to the lowest as Asfala of the low. Apparently Rad is used in its usual meaning, rejecting, reducing, returning. The lowest of the low refers to the most degenerate condition, the worst of those who have lost out and plunged into wretchedness. It means, we then lower the human being to the lowest position among the people enduring divine punishment. Two other possibilities are, U1 Rad is equivalent to gel, making, turning, placing. The meaning would be, we make them the lowest of the low. C2 Rad is equivalent to tagi, or changing, transforming. The meaning would be, we change the human being to a state of having the lowest position. In either case, the meaning of lowliness would be misery and punishment. Here are some other suggested views on the versa. One being created in the fairest stature refers to one's youth, when one is strong, healthy and handsome. Then relegating them to the lowest of the low refers to becoming old and decrepit, where one loses both inner and outer strength. Thus one's creation degenerates, as God says, and whomever we give a long life, we cause him to regress in creation. 1. The human being only refers to the unfaithful, and being relegated to the lowest of the low speaks of that person's descent into hellfire. 2. Being relegated to the lowest of the low signifies the deterioration of one's health through aging, and the exception in the next verse is an unconnected one. Comment. Apparently the exception in the next verse, except for those who believe and do righteous deeds, is connected to the content of the current verse. For all people grow old, whether they are believers or disbelievers, virtuous or vicious. Saying that the believers or the righteous believers are exempted from that is an unwarranted claim. 6th verse.
إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون.
Except those who believe and do righteous deeds. Then they shall have an unfailing, ager mam yen reward. Ger mam yen is synonymous with ger magd diu, uninterrupted, unceasing, not cut off. This is a connected exception that is applied to the human being as a genus. Then they shall have as far, lahum, an unfailing reward. This is a consequence of their belief and righteous deeds indicated by the letter far. So, then, therefore. This confirms, through contrast, the view that the lowest of the low means misery and divine punishment. 7th verse.
فما يكذبك بعد بالدين.
So what Fayamtar would make you deny retribution, Sabil Dan. This verse speaks to the human species as a genus. Some exegetes say that it is addressed to the Prophet, but intended for others. The particle meles what introduces a rhetorical question that indicates rebuke. Retribution is the object which one is led to deny, and it means God's recompense in the hereafter. The meaning offered by the exegetes is, given that we have put human beings into two groups, one which degenerates into abasement, and one which shall enjoy eternal reward, what would make you deny God's retribution on the day of resurrection? 8th verse.
أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين.
Is not Allah the most decisive of judges, Ahkam al-Tukim an N from Hokum? This is a rhetorical question for the sake of affirmation. By referring to God as the most decisive of judges, it affirms that God is above all other judges in having the most accurate, solid and irrevocable verdict, which is unimpeded by uncertainty, weakness or annulment. Both in his initial creation of the people and the subsequent management their affairs, he rules over them in the firmest, most excellent and most penetrating way as required by his infinite wisdom. If God is the most decisive of judges, and human beings are in two different groups with respect to their beliefs and acts, then divine wisdom necessitates that these two groups be distinguished in their eternal life, which will be upon the resurrection. This should clarify the significance of the letter fa, as so, then, therefore at the beginning of the last verse. So what S-Fa-M tar would make you deny retribution? It shows that the verse is the conclusion of God's argument, the proof for which is to be found in the verses before it and the verse after it. The premises of the argument are, as a one, people are created with the best structure. As two, they then split into two groups. One group departing from their fair stature and crumbling into the lowest of the low, while the other remaining steadfast on their robust structure and pristine nature. A3 God, who is in charge of directing their affairs, is the wisest of judges. His decisive wisdom decrees that the two groups must differ in their retribution. Given these premises, the conclusion is, thus, there will be a day on which each group is recompensed for what it did, and there is no justification for denying it. As one can see, the message of these verses is similar to the following. Shall we treat those who believe and do righteous deeds like those who cause corruption on the earth? Shall we treat the godwary like the vicious? Do those who have perpetrated misdeeds suppose that we shall treat them as those who believe and do righteous deeds, their life and death being equal? Evil is the judgment that they make. Some exegetes have held that the last verse, so what would make you, is addressed to the Prophet, where emtaz and what means man as who, and hukam in the current verse means judgment, rule, verdict. Therefore, the meaning would be, since people are divided into these two groups, they must be distinguished by their retribution on the promised day. Given this, who would accuse you of lying about the judgment? Is not God the best judge? So he shall indeed judge between you and those who charge you with being a liar in your claims about the retribution. As one can see, this interpretation suffers from unnecessary contrivance. Examining narrations 1, regarding by the fig and by the olive, by Mount Sinai, by this secure land tafs are all Qum says, the fig is Medina, the olive is Jerusalem, Mount Sinai is Kufa. This secure land is Mecca. Authors comment, this is also found in a narration from the Prophet via Imam al-Tozim. However, there is some problem with this interpretation. 2. It is narrated that the fig and the olive are al-Hassan and al-Hussein, respectively. Mount Sinai is el-Du, and the secure land is the Prophet. Authors comment, such narrations are irrelevant to the apparent and primary meaning of the verse, are called tafsir. 3. Once the Prophet was asked about the secure land, he said it is Mecca. That brings us to the end of this wonderful surah, that serves to remind us that Allah emphasizes the creation of humans in an ideal form and their potential to achieve greatness through faith and righteous deeds. However, those who deviate from their pure nature risk falling into the lowest of the low, facing divine retribution. This surah benefits mankind today by reminding us of our inherent dignity, the importance of moral integrity, and the ultimate accountability before God. It calls people to maintain faith, uphold justice, and live righteously, with the assurance that God, as the ultimate judge, will reward or punish justly in the hereafter. I hope you enjoy this. May Allah bless you. Take care.